We're joined by our correspondent, Johnny Miller, joining us live from Donetsk, and also John Bosnich, journalist and activist and political analyst, joining us live from Belgrade. Thank you very much to both of you. Let's begin with Johnny, who's been working really hard these days. First, if you could please give us an update, Johnny, and regarding these weapons that are flowing into Ukraine, what is the effect?
Well, interestingly, the British government said they're going to give 12 Challenger 2 tanks to Ukraine. To be frank, 12 tanks is not going to have any effect on the battlefield, but I have some suspicion that Britain giving 12 tanks is made just simply in an effort to goad Germany into giving their tanks. Germany has hundreds of these Leopard tanks, and also it's sold hundreds of tanks to other states around Europe, and contractually they need Germany's permission to send them to Ukraine, although the Polish government has said that they may bypass that. But there seems to be a lot of hesitation from the Germans about whether to give these tanks, and now some political disagreements about, well, if you send your tanks, I'll send my tanks. But certainly a lot of hesitation from the Germans. Interesting comment from the Ukrainian ambassador to London recently. He said they need hundreds or thousands of these tanks to be able to win this war, and he's right. For Ukraine to win this war, Russia has a huge military-industrial complex. It has overwhelming manpower superiority to Ukraine. And for Ukraine to win this, it's going to need a lot more weapons, maybe more than weapons, manpower as well, in order to win this war. So when you have the ambassador to London saying we need hundreds or thousands of these tanks, and Britain is giving 12 tanks, and Germany is hesitating about whether to give its tanks, it's not clear just how Ukraine is going to win this war. So very much Russia at the moment going forward on the battlefield, and a dispute within European countries, particularly more of a split between America, Britain, Baltic states, Poland on one side, and Germany and France on the other. Let me tell you, there's many people in the German and French conservative establishment. They don't just mean left-wing journalists or anti-war activists. But in the conservative establishments of France and Germany, there are many people wondering whether this is in the French and German interest to continue supplying weapons to Ukraine.
And thank you, Johnny. So, Mr. Bosnich, you just heard the updates from our correspondent, and if you could please elaborate more on what we can expect to happen in this upcoming conference, and of course this whole issue about sending tanks to Ukraine. What is the point? Because as Johnny just mentioned, if Ukraine is to win the war, it's going to need a lot more weapons than that.
The first point to make about the conference is that the conference is just a group of people speaking about what they think they'll be able to deliver in the future. The actual delivery of weapons systems to Ukraine takes months, if not longer than several months, and it's a good question to ask whether there will be anywhere safe to deliver those weapons. If the weapons are sent by rail, they'll be destroyed from the air by Russian rockets. If the weapons are sent by land, then wherever they cross the border should be most likely targeted once again by Russian rockets. So that's the first point, the impracticality of delivering the weapons. The second point, as was mentioned by your correspondent, Johnny Miller, is that 12 tanks will have no effect whatsoever on this war. And not only that, neither would hundreds of tanks, because the people to run those tanks, to operate those tanks, simply don't exist inside Ukraine. So the only way that these weapons could be used is the same way as the American Patriot systems, which eventually will be properly deployed, are to be used, and that is with American soldiers on the ground illegally without the knowledge or consent of the US Congress, which leads to the main problem, which is that all of these Western operations are being done by the back door against their own laws, and Poland's statement that it might send Leopard tanks into battle in Ukraine without respecting a signed legal contract with Germany shows the deeper fractures that are going to take place within the EU. Because delivering advanced weapon systems to Ukraine means, one, they'll be destroyed, but more problematic for Germany and England is that they might be captured and then reverse engineered and all of their technologies copied by the other side.
Thank you very much to John Bosnich. author and political analyst from Belgrade. Also, our correspondent, Johnny Miller. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the News Review. And thanks to all of you viewers for watching this edition.